basically talks about a farmer who went out one day. He wanted to plant, and he went out one day and he scattered some of his seeds along the path on rocky grounds, among thorns, and finally on good soil. So there are 4 different places that the seeds fell on, and obviously based on the ground it fell on, it determined what happened to the seed. Hello and welcome to the Okpe John Show, where we simplify faith and finances. So many people have a great idea that they want to turn into business. But I find, lots of people go ahead and they start that business, but those businesses don't actually stand the test of time. And I started to study businesses far and near, and I really wanted to understand why businesses fail. So in this video, I'll be sharing some of the lessons that I've learned as to why businesses fail. Earlier this week, I was reading the parable of the sower, and that parable puts a lot of things in perspective as well for me around the topic of why businesses fail. For those of you that aren't familiar with the parable, it basically talks about a farmer who went out one day. He wanted to plant, and he went out one day and he scattered some of his seeds along the path on rocky grounds, among thorns, and finally on good soil. So there are 4 different places that the seeds fell on, and obviously based on the ground it fell on, it determined what happened to the seed. And I think it's very metaphorical for what happens to businesses. Now, here are the reasons why businesses sometimes fail. The first thing that happens is some seeds fell on the path, and what happens is birds came and ate it up. What is the lesson from this? A lot of times when we have a business idea or we have an idea, investment idea, we share it too early at the wrong time. The timing has to be right. There are people waiting around to steal your ideas. If you're in a place where it's just an idea and you need to develop it, it's not yet time to be sharing it around or to go out and be sharing with people that I've got this idea. Somebody else is going to take it, run with it, refine it, and probably even do it better than you because you're sharing it at the wrong time. One thing that we've got to know is time is so important. There is a wrong time. There is no perfect time, but there is a right time for you. The second thing that happens with a farmer in the parable is some seeds fell on rocky grounds. The thing about a rocky ground is there isn't any root or soil. There isn't enough nutrients for the seeds to grow and germinate. So of course, it starts growing, then it dies really quicker than it can even start properly. Now, what is the lesson from this? The second thing is lack of preparation. A lot of times people start businesses without preparing properly for it. It doesn't matter how gifted you are, what you do. It doesn't matter how great or how natural it may come to you. It's very important that you spend time preparing, doing your research, taking on courses if you need to, finding people who have done what you're trying to do and learning from them, even going as far as finding a mentor. It's very important. It helps you. It really saves you crashing even before you start. There's a saying that I grew up around, if you fail to prepare, you prepare to fail. It is kind of true. If you don't prepare, a lot of times people can see through these cracks when you start your business. The third thing that happened in the parable of the sower is some seeds fell on among thorns. Now, this is very interesting because I think this is so relevant. And there's so many things that we can learn from this, from a business perspective as to why they fail. The first thing is sometimes businesses are planted in the wrong environment. Environment is so important. I've known people who started their business. They started in a certain country, but they've had to relocate their lives to a different country because they knew they had an idea that could turn them into billionaires or $1 billion idea, but it was just in the wrong environment, and the environment can easily suffocate that business and drown it quicker than it can grow. I always say this, no point trying to sell winter coats in a country like UAE or a country that doesn't even experience winter. It's a great business idea, but it's in the wrong environment. So it's only a matter of time before it crashes. Another thing as well is the wrong target audience. It's so important that you know your target audience. No point trying to sell anti-aging cream to a bunch of youths. You've got to know who you're trying to sell to. You can't sell to everyone and anyone. The reality is you've got to know the people that your product or your services are targeted at, and make sure that you package it correctly for them. Now, the next one is the wrong people. You know, I think people are so important when you're starting your business. People are the ladders that we climb on sometimes, but also they can also be the biggest problem when people are starting a business. If you are surrounded by people who constantly doubt or constantly telling you about the negatives in what you're doing, never seeing the potential in your business, best believe you're surrounded by the wrong people, and it's only a matter of time before they suffocate that business and drown it. So it's very important that you find yourself in the right company of people who are like-minded, people who would encourage you, not people who will tell you things that you want to hear, people who can be honest with you, you know, people who constructively criticize things, but also help you find solutions rather than constantly telling you all the negatives but never finding positive. So people are very important. Now, the last point on that is knowing your unique selling points. Many people go into business, especially in a saturated market, don't know what their unique selling point is. For example, I could decide to become a photographer. There's so many great photographers out there who are doing their thing and holding it down well. But what makes me different to Joe? Why should people come to me instead of going to Joe? How can I stay competitive in a challenging market? How do I make myself competitive? It's very important that you know what your unique selling point is, because that is why people will keep coming back to you. Finally, when you find yourself in the right environment, you've waited for the right time, you know who your target audience is, you've got the right people around you, you've identified what your unique selling point is. Just like that farmer who planted on a fertile soil. You know, a lot of times businesses are in that place and they're doing well. You know, it's very important to remember as well that a good soil still requires tending to. So you need to keep watering and keep nurturing and keep reviewing things in your business, not ignoring your finances. You can't ignore your finances in business. Ignoring your finances is like trying to eat a whole day and going without drinking any fluids at all. It's only a matter of time before you find things crash. So even when you're planted on the right soil, make sure that you always take a step back and review, because it's an ongoing process. Success is not a destination, it's an ongoing journey. If you haven't subscribed to this YouTube channel, please subscribe so you're one of the first people to know when the next video drops.